Hi folks, hope you're well out there still. Today's video is going to be about Dashy, which is an open source and highly customizable dashboard app. I'm just going to go through, first of all, very briefly what Dashy is from their website, and then I'm going to show you how I use a dashboard. And I'll then just go on also to show you the glances stats that it makes use of to give you some more advanced views inside your dashboard. And as usual, there are links below the video to jump forward if you want to. So this is their website at dashy.to. Can just also mention that their developer is very, very responsive. She's very quick to respond to questions and issues and so on that are logged. But you'll see here briefly, this is sort of how it looks. A lot of theming and colors. I think what really sets it apart from other dashboards probably is the amount of customization that you can do. Not maybe the be all and end all yet, but it's being developed and having features and so on added literally, every week. So yeah, widgets, different alternative views that you can use as well, different launching methods, searching and shortcuts. Got cloud backup and sync as well, which is probably quite unique for dashboard apps. Different ways of actually configuring it, not just the configuration file. There's also a sort of a WYSIWYG edit, but a couple of other ways of editing as well, multiple languages and customizable layouts. What I can just show on the GitHub site is, you'll see here, you can see here the recent commits, 4 days, 7 days ago, 4 months ago, last month, 5 days ago. So it's very, very actively updated. So, I suppose there are simpler dashboards out there, and I'll show you Heimdall that I've been using. I've still got it running actually. It's running in a container. Dashy is also running in a container, as is the Glances app that I'm making use of. So let's just have a look at Heimdall first, and then I can explain why I went on to Dashy really. So Heimdall is a lot more simplistic. You haven't got all the customization, but for many people, maybe they don't want that really. You just want something simple and clean. Heimdall's going to do the job for you. So these are basically groupings of links or applications and so on. So for example, if I clicked on, say, Host World, which is my hosting website, it will expand to show links to go to PHPMyAdmin, my hosting client area, the hosting service, Matoma stats site, Portainer, that sort of thing. And if I go back to the home one, you'll see something else. A couple of them have also got widgets. For example, the Portainer one, it shows you a little quick summary of what's running and what's been stopped. Things like AdGuard Home as well. You've got some basic stats inside the widget, which is actually very, very nice. This depends, of course, purely on the support that's already built in for that application service. So if you add something to Heimdall, that's Portainer or AdGuard or whatever, it will have these. But you'll see for various of the others, there are no particular stats. So, a lot will depend on what it's got support built in for. But what I'm actually using a dashboard for is there's a couple of regularly accessed things that I access, and I don't want to keep tabs open for each and every one of them. So if I quickly need to check my CCTV, or want to check my Victron Solar stats for the house, or I need to do something quickly in Portainer, I keep a dashboard page open. And I've clustered the stuff. This is all the home related stuff. As I said before, if I go back, that is all the stuff that relates to my VPS service. This relates to all my ham radio stuff that's running, whether on a Raspberry Pi or, wherever the case is. So it's quick and easy just for me to find those things that I regularly have to access. And that's really the point of a dashboard. So you can customize it any way you want to, cluster it or group it or whatever the case is. But Heimdall, as I said, that's pretty well much what you're getting out of Heimdall. So I'm using Dashy for the same sort of thing. So if I go look here, this is Dashy, and you will see, first of all, you can set your own icon and title for the dashboard. You can give it your own little saying or whatever up the top there. You can quickly type in here to filter over what you've got in the dashboard. It's got links already to GitHub and documentation. This is my main tab at the moment, but you can also have secondary or tertiary pages as well. So you could click on this, for example, and go to Raspberry Pi. And it'll open up whatever you've set up on that page. So in this case, I've just got some stats running for each of my Raspberry Pis. This is using the Glances stats, basically. So if I go back to the main page, you can group your widgets. I think what's nice, first of all, over Heimdall, for example, is you can cluster various widgets together. So instead of having separate pages where you've grouped everything, you can have one widget for server performance. This, for example, is a cluster called Today. You can collapse or open, but it's got separate widgets in it. One is for time. I think this was for weather stats. And then I've got one for currency stats, and I've got another one for some crypto stats, just keeping an eye on whether Bitcoin or Ethereum is going up or down. So you can't do this in Heimdall. So it's a cluster of 1, 2, 3, 4 widgets you can group together. Then another thing you'll notice is it's also got built-in support for various types of services, one of which being, say, for example, AdGuard in this place. So AdGuard, its widget's a little bit more comprehensive, but the difference may be, well, I wouldn't say it's more or fewer. It probably has as many or more. It's different. How can I put it? It's different to what Heimdall's ones are, but I think way more diverse. So for example, you can see from all these widgets, there's a lot more you can include and a lot more interesting widgets than Heimdall has actually got. I've left this domains one in. It did work, but it only worked for the first 3 days. It seems to me you've got to pay something towards the service. Why it was nifty was it will show you actually when the domain names that you've got are expiring, when they're up for renewal. So it can be quite useful, but I'll probably just take it out. I mean, unless I'm going to pay for that. And then I've clustered, whereas these were on separate pages in Heimdall, I could now have all my home server hosted stuff in one group of widgets. So there they all are. What you'll notice if you're looking at them is some of them have got little green dots. So what you can do is you can set it up also per widget or per link for it to basically ping, and you can determine how often as well, to ping the service and see if it's actually up and what the response is. So it'll just quickly say to me, my CCTV stuff is live and it's connected at the moment. AdGuard is connected, it's running. Fresh RSS is up and running. Others down here, you'll see my family tree, web trees site. I switch off this container when I'm not actually accessing it or nobody needs it. So that's why you'll see it says there it's off at the moment, as is this L collaboration site at the moment. But that's just what those little dots are for. You can also set custom icons for each of the services. What's also interesting there is that Dashy doesn't just have one set of icons. It can draw on about a good 4 or 5 different types of icon services. So, you can really choose the look and feel. You'll see some of these look very much like the applications. Others are sort of material view type icons I've used. You can even use an image. I think I might have, I'm not sure, I don't see one here at the moment, but I think you can even use a custom image for it as well. So yeah, the other thing is I can just say I've taken the colorful theme, but you can switch the themes to, various other themes as well, depending on what you want. So quite a few. And of course, you can even customize, you can literally customize the theme further as well. So I think as far as customization goes for Dashy, it's pretty good. Then I can just show you this widget. Glances is one of the widgets that's making use of a backend service. So you install Glances on the device you want to monitor. So that could be your desktop PC, another desktop PC, a Raspberry Pi, or a VPS or a server or whatever the case is. So I've actually installed, I'm using Docker instances of Glancy. This is the Glancy website. Basically, you install Glancy and it gives you, Glancy itself gives you a bunch of rich statistics on the services running on that machine. Why I decided to install it in Docker is because will actually show you views of the container as well. Unfortunately, not inside Dashy, but maybe Dashy can't like show everything in the kitchen sink. Otherwise, you're going to overload everything with resources. So some of the basic glancy stats are things like drive space, temperatures, memory. You can sort of choose of what you want to use. And I'll finish the video by going through some of the various other widgets you can choose from. That'll give you a better feel for what you can do. And I've decided to keep these closed, when I open them, but basically that's what they look like. So if I had to go look, if I go down here, various of these will open the actual sites over there, but you'll see glances. I've actually told it to open in a window instead. So if you click on, for example, this one, it's going to show you the glances page. So the glances actually runs as looks like a CLI sort of ASCII type view. It runs in a web page actually, so it'll open in a tab on your browser. But this is the tab. I'm just opening it sort of within a window at the moment. But you'll see here, it shows you your various containers that are running. So this is a very handy view because what it's telling me, obviously, what's running, how long it's been up and running since the last reboot or reset, how much memory and CPU it's using. So it's a good way for me, instead of going into Portainer, at a glance, as they say, you can quickly see what's happening with your containers. So, I do like this. Or if a container's stopped working or something. As well as it gives you the various processes running at the bottom. It gives you your file system usage, disk I/O, network interfaces, CPU, memory usage, and that sort of thing. So this stuff from the containers is not coming through at the moment to Dashy. But what I do find useful, as I said, is just quickly being able to have this view on tap, really. So I did mention the config file. I'm not going to go through the whole config file editing and so on, but what I can just show is that the updating of the config, you can over here edit the actual config file. You can view it, you can change languages, enable the cloud sync, rebuild the app. That's if you've made any changes to the config file manually, physically, the physical file, you can come in here and just rebuild the app. But you've also got this interactive editor. So you can't really edit or create widgets in this view, unfortunately. That you really will have to do at the config file level because there's a bit of detail you've got to paste in there. But what you can do, and you also can't drag and drop these clusters, which is a bit of a pity. But chiefly what I'm using it for really is to create a new item or to edit an existing item that you've already got inside these clusters. So if I said, say, the Portainer one, you could see, you could give it a name, you give it a description. That's where you set the icon. And the GitHub page for Dashy does give a whole lot more detail about how you put in the icon abbreviations. You'll put in the IP address to open the service. And this is where you'll choose whether you want it to open as a new tab, same tab, parent. Modal is the one that opens it inside a window. And then you can also add, like you've got the opening method, you can add additional things like hotkeys or tags or providers. That's the status check where it'll give you that little green or red dot to say whether it's open or closed. So you can add various of these as well. So there's quite a bit you can actually do there. You'll see, for example, I think if I take the add guard one, edit, you'll see there I've got the status check true. So that's really how you do it. So that's really the mostly around the view and so on. I can also just show the layout changes. So I've preferred, let me just cancel the edit. I've preferred this sort of vertical layout, but you've got an auto layout. It depends on how you've set your widgets up and how big they are and small they are and in what order. So as I said, you can't drag and drop these, unfortunately, which is quite sad. Or not that I'm aware of, but I have basically cut and paste and just moved the text within the config file, and that's how I rearrange them. But that's the auto order, so it's not always going to work out well for you. I'm using that order, but you can also do a a horizontal order. I don't know where the scroll bar is. Oh, there it is. So you can, that doesn't really make maybe a lot of sense to me so much. So I'm basically just using that one. So I think let's just go and have a look then at the GitHub page. And you'll see there's quite a bit of information about how to set it up. You've got the instructions for getting it going in Docker, from source, deployment guides, that sort of thing. There's quite a bit of information here about these are the different options for the different types of icons that you can actually make use of. And there are links and instructions to how to find these and how to, how to use them. There was the status indicators I've already mentioned. And the part I really wanted just to sort of end off with really more was the widget side, actually. So you can go here and jump straight to the documentation for the widgets. So this is a list of all the general widgets. The general widgets are widgets that are, you can basically just paste them in and use them as is. You don't have to install your own and run an additional service for it. So I've already showed you like the clock on the weather, there's weather forecast, RSS feeds. You can have images, display your public IP address, different crypto stuff as well. I've showed you the exchange rates, COVID-19 status, public holidays. And obviously you can customize various of these flight data and so on. Then these are the ones that link to self-hosted services. So things like AdGuard. I'm running AdGuard already at home. So I was linking to AdGuard and the widget was giving you a lot of additional information. And the same goes for things like Nextcloud and then Pi-hole and certain of these as well. CPU history, cron monitoring, and so on. Synology, they've got StatPing is another service as well. I'm not running at the moment. And the other ones down here, really, like system resource monitoring, rely on glances. If you don't have glances installed, you're not going to see this stuff. And then there's a couple of there's different ways of displaying widgets, really. And usage and customization. So there's a lot more advanced stuff here you can also do with widgets. So, for example, if you just had to take clock, that's how it's going to appear by default. And that is the code that you're going to basically paste into the config file. And you'll see that gives you a little bit of additional information here about what you can customize and change. Whether you want to hide the date or hide the seconds and so on there as well. And the same thing really goes for weather forecasting, RSS feed. I just want to get down to glances actually. Good. The exchange rates. Stock price history. GitHub, we're nearly there. These are the self-hosted widgets. So these will be the AdGuard Plus and that sort of thing as well. CPU history, whole status. There's the AdGuard home block stats. I think that's the one that I'm using. So again, you're just going to put the IP address in of where your AdGuard container is running. Nextcloud. I think this Nextcloud, some of this is actually new, by the way. I didn't think I saw this a month ago, 2 months ago. So this is the system resource monitoring. And as they say here, Glances is a cross-platform monitoring tool. You need to install that. It runs on Python. But the Glances page, and there are links here to it as well on their site, you can install it. And as I said, I ran it as a container mainly because it gave me a lot more additional information about the other containers running. This is sort of showing all the different widgets you could use from Glances at the moment. So it connects to your Glances instance, which you will put in the URL or the IP address of over there. and it'll pull back the information on whichever widgets you decide you want to install. You could just have CPU usage if you wanted. But again, there's a certain amount more customization that you can do on each widget as well. And you can set refresh times, that sort of thing as well. Glances, by the way, I did notice it can use a good 10% every time it does an update. You can set how often it's doing, whether it's once a second, every 2, 3, 4 seconds or whatever. But it uses about 10% or so CPU utilization. So it's not lightweight. You want to think about maybe what you're running your glances on. Don't run it on something that is, already being very heavily taxed. So, yeah, that's really it. So as I said, a dashboard to me is quite essential. And even if I'm traveling, for example, and I don't expose my dashboard to the internet. So what I do really is I am logging into my home network. I run my dashboard on my home network on my Open Media Vault server. I log in with OpenVPN securely into the LAN, and then I normally open the dashboard. And from the dashboard, I jump to whatever I need to do on the network, because this has really got all my IP addresses or quick links or wherever I need to go to do any maintenance, like on Portainer, or if I need to fix something on Nginx proxy, or even to get to Cloudflare management or Mesh Central or whatever the case is. I've got quick links for all of this. Yes, you could, I suppose, have it in a bookmark or whatever, but this is the stuff I regularly use, and I also cluster it in this way. For example, these ones over here, where I've got host world LAN access, these are not exposed to the internet. So if I want to access this, reminds me that I must open my VPN, connect via VPN at least, before I try and access Portainer or PHPMyAdmin or Nginx Proxy Manager. So I keep it sort of in that sort of cluster of widgets over there. And yeah, I just find that the dashboard view is pretty useful. It's something I've been using for quite a long time, and I'm liking Dashy, mainly, as I said, because you've got a lot more and it's customizable. So yeah, I hope that was sort of interest. And you can decide again, like I said, something like Heimdall versus Dashy. Both are running quite nicely in containers. And they work very well on a mobile view as well. So if you need to view this, for example, on an iPhone or on a tablet or something like that, they render very, very nicely as well in that format. So yeah, okay. Stay well and stay safe out there, and I'll see you in my next video.